Welcome to our devotion series where we are working through Luke chapter 6, and we are inviting God to speak into our lives, to grow us more into God's family, instead of being divided and pulled apart into different tribes and nations like the world often does to us. So I want to invite you to spend a moment in prayer, asking God to prepare your heart, your eyes, your ears for what God might say today to you through the reading of Scripture in this devotion.
It is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well. It is well with my soul.
Our scripture reading today comes from Luke chapter 6, verses 37 and 38. We're actually going to spend the next 2 days in these verses. And so hear the words from Luke and imagine yourself into the story as Jesus came down with them and stood on a level place with a great crowd of his disciples and a great multitude of people from all Judea, Jerusalem, and the coast of Tyre and Sidon. And then Jesus looked up at his disciples and said, "Do not judge, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and it will be given to you. A good measure pressed down, shaken together, running over will be put into your lap, for the measure you give will be the measure you get back." The word of the Lord. This text today, we're going to focus on the first half of it, where it talks about judging and condemning. And I want to invite you to let Jesus' words speak to you and to your world and to your life today. And Jesus invites us to a better way of living in this world. And some of the way forward to get to that point is to identify and to call out where we don't live up to Jesus' teaching. And so Jesus begins by saying, "Do not judge." That is one of those statements that is easier said than lived out. Do not judge. I was looking at the words between do not judge and do not condemn. And do not judge can also have some other kinds of varying connotations to it. Do not pass judgment on. Do not criticize. And I just really love the way that the Greek lexicon had for the entry about judging here. It described judgment as passing judgment on and thereby seeking to influence the lives and actions of others. Do not judge is not just don't think with critical mindsets and spirits towards other people, though that is also what's at work here. Do not just pass judgment on others. Do not walk around just critiquing and thinking critically and negatively about people and the world around you. But I think there's also something really powerful about that additional definition of don't pass judgment on and thereby seek to influence the lives and actions of others. So like judging can be an act of power that you're trying to exert on people in your life. And we've all probably experienced that of, that person that you felt judged you, that you felt, oh no, if they hear this story, if they see me wearing this, if they see whatever it is, that they're going to pass judgment on me. And you are internalizing that their judgment also feels like it's going to have an effect on the way you have to live and operate and act around that person. And so Jesus is inviting you not to judge other people, also not to try to control people through you thinking you understand with perfection what is right and wrong, and of course they deserve the criticism, they deserve the judgment passed on them. And not only do you think that you can judge them correctly, but you kind of just want to change the way that person lives. You want to conform them to the way that you think the world works. And so, do not judge, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. There's something in addition to judgment and trying to move people in their power and using power over them, that condemning adds to that the pronouncement. Not only do I think that you're doing things wrong, I'm going to pronounce that you are guilty. You are condemned. You need that public announcement that you are flawed, that you are falling short, that you have not lived up to my standards. And Jesus invites us to live in the world without that conception ruling in our lives, because it's so easy to criticize and to look down on others and to pronounce that I know that you're the loser. I know that you're the sinner. I know that you're the one who falls short. And that mindset does not easily create the kind of way of living in the world that Jesus invites us into, of love and of goodness and of justice. And so Jesus invites us not to judge, not to condemn. But there's a reason that Jesus does so. There's a reason kind of built in to be careful, to be concerned about when I live that way, when I pronounce judgment on people, when I condemn other people, I am inviting myself to the exact same critique, and I have to acknowledge I'm not going to live up to it. And so it's in our best interest to not be judging, to not be condemning, because we invite that same criticism, that same condemning right back upon ourselves. And so if you've felt heavy criticism, if you've felt heavy condemnation, if you felt people shame you, or you just feel like others are judging you all the time, pay attention to whether you are reciprocal in that, if you are also doing that same judgment, that same criticism back into the world. And so that is an invitation, is to consider whether you want to be a part of the cyclical act of judging and condemning one another. And so I want to invite you to pray and reflect through some questions today. The first question: whose life are you assuming you can live better than? Because we kind of play out imaginative lives in our heads of, that person, I can't believe they do this, this, and that. We are acting like we could live their life better than them, and we are judging them and saying that they are less than about those decisions, about those ways of living the world, even though we don't have to go through all the factors that they go through. We haven't had all the same experiences. We haven't had the same challenges or limits or opportunities. But who in your life do you assume you could live better than? And may you let the Spirit invite you to whittle away that judgment and that condemnation that's in your spirit about that person, so you can get to a place of loving them and not just judging and condemning them. So whose life are you assuming you can live better than? My second question: ask yourself why you want to pronounce guilt on other people. When we condemn them, when we say they're guilty, ask yourself, why am I wanting to put that guilt on someone? And inspect what it is in your life, what it is in your spirit that is inviting that mindset. And I mentioned about condemnation and judgment, that there's this sneaking influence of wanting to control and kind of manipulate and move and shape people. And I want to invite you to think, is there something in me that is trying to control somebody that I need to let go of? And so spend some time in prayer about those that you do pronounce guilt or judgment on. Ask yourself why you want to pronounce that judgment and condemnation. And lastly, I want you just to imagine something today. I want you to imagine all the judgments, all the condemnations you have for other people. You can fill those in, of those pronouncements that you make about others, that you assume that they are wrong, that they are less than. And I just want to imagine letting go of those, letting those judgments, letting those condemnations disappear off of your spirit, and imagine that likewise the burden and the responsibilities of guilt and judgment are also lifted off of your back and off of your shoulders. Do you feel heaviness around, do I live up to the expectations? Do I live up to the kind of the rules and the systems that God might invite me into? learn how to let go of blaming and accusing others, to allow yourself to let go into God's grace and let go into God's forgiveness. And we're going to talk more tomorrow about the grace and the forgiveness and what we give to others. But I just want to invite you to pray and imagine letting go of all of that judgment, all of that condemnation, and prepare yourself in your prayer time to let go of that control, let go of that power, or whatever it is that's driving those judgments on your neighbor, or those judgments on your family, your coworkers, whoever it is. And so I want to invite you to listen again to the words from Luke chapter 6. Jesus was coming down with them and stood on a level place with a great crowd of his disciples and a great multitude of people from all Judea, Jerusalem, and the coast of Tyre and Sidon. And Jesus looked up at his disciples and said, "Do not judge, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and it will be given to you. A good measure pressed down, shaken together, running over will be put into your lap, for the measure you give will be the measure you get back." May today be a day of healing for you. May you let go of the judgments and the condemnations that you might be throwing at your neighbor today. And may you likewise feel the relief and the release of those condemnations and judgments upon you.
It is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well. It is well.